Is corruption the nemesis of our political system, or has it become its lifeblood? This opening question isn't rhetorical. It's a genuine inquiry into the state of affairs that has been plaguing our present-day political landscape. Let's dive into it. The stage is set, not in a theater, but in the hallowed halls of power, where decisions that shape our lives are made. It's an arena that should be governed by the principles of justice, transparency, and integrity. Yet, it's often marred by a sinister undercurrent of corruption. In the United States, this conundrum is not a distant possibility, but a lived reality. From the corridors of local government to the heights of Capitol Hill, stories of bribery, fraud, and deceit are more common than we'd like to admit. But what is it about corruption that makes it so deeply entrenched in our political fabric? Well, corruption isn't just an act, it's a culture, a mindset, a way of life for some. It's the shadowy figure that lurks behind closed doors, whispering promises of power, wealth, and security. It's the invisible hand that pulls the strings, manipulating outcomes to serve personal or partisan interests. But let's not forget, corruption is a two-way street. It's not just about those who give, but also those who are willing to receive. The state representatives who allow themselves to be swayed, the political parties who turn a blind eye, the officials who choose personal gain over public good, they all play their part in this grand charade. So what does this mean for democracy? The system that prides itself on equality, freedom, and justice. While corruption undermines these very principles, it erodes trust, stifles progress, and breeds inequality. It's a parasite that feeds on the body politic, slowly but surely draining its vitality. But here's the thing, corruption isn't invincible. It thrives in the shadows, yes, but it fears the light of truth, accountability, and justice. And that's why we're here, to shine a light on this issue, to expose the rot, and hopefully, to spark a change. Unraveling the threads of corruption can lead us down some unexpected avenues, but don't worry, we'll navigate this labyrinth together, one scene at a time. While the media highlights certain scandals, many remain hidden in the shadows. This is especially true when we consider the lesser-known tales of corruption that have quietly unfolded within the halls of power. Let's take a look at a couple of these obscured scandals, where state representatives have used their influence to frame political rivals. In the heartland of America, a state representative was caught red-handed accepting bribes to manipulate evidence against a former president. This representative, known for his charisma and charm, had been secretly accepting large sums of money. The charges? Bribery, a serious crime involving the offering, giving, receiving, or soliciting of something of value as a means to influence the actions of an individual holding a public or legal duty. In this case, it was to tarnish the reputation of a political adversary. In another corner of the nation, a representative was found guilty of treason. Treason, the crime of betraying one's own country, includes acts such as levying war against the state or aiding its enemies. In this instance, the representative was found guilty of leaking confidential information to foreign entities, undermining national security and the integrity of the political system, all to frame a former president and his family. The consequences of these actions are far-reaching. More than just individual acts of corruption, they represent a systemic issue that erodes trust in public institutions, undermines democracy, and slows social and economic development. It's a chilling reminder that power without accountability can lead to a dangerous game of self-interest and deceit. So while these scandals may not have made the front page of your morning paper, they are nonetheless significant. They serve as a stark reminder of the real and present danger of unchecked power and the lengths to which some will go to protect their interests. It's a dangerous game when power is wielded without accountability. And as we delve deeper into this world of corruption, we see just how treacherous this game can be. Corruption isn't a victimless crime, it has far-reaching effects on society. Let's delve into these impacts, shall we? When political corruption rears its ugly head, one of the first casualties is the public's trust. Consider the infamous Watergate scandal of the 70s. As details of the cover-up came to light, public faith in the government nosedived. It wasn't just about the money or the power play, it was about the betrayal. This erosion of trust is a wound that takes generations to heal, and even then, the scar never truly fades. Economic instability is another grim consequence. Look at Brazil and the Operation Car Wash scandal that began in 2014. What started as a small-time money laundering investigation spiraled into a massive corruption scandal involving high-ranking politicians and business leaders. The fallout? An economic crisis that left the country reeling for years. When corruption infects the economy, the ripple effect is felt by everyone. Then there's the hindrance of social development. In countries riddled with corruption, resources meant for public services often end up lining the pockets of the corrupt. Schools remain unbuilt, hospitals understaffed, and roads in disrepair. The human cost of corruption is starkly evident in the case of Kenya's Goldenberg scandal. Millions of dollars meant for development were siphoned off, leaving the Kenyan people paying the price. And let's not forget about the perversion of justice. When the corrupt walk free, it sends a message that those with power are above the law. The Guatemalan La Linea corruption scandal, where the president and vice president were implicated in a customs fraud scheme, is a prime example. Although they were eventually brought to justice, the initial impunity shook the nation's faith in its justice system. In the end, it's the everyday citizens who pay the price for political corruption. They bear the brunt of the economic fallout, they grapple with the erosion of trust, and they suffer when social development is hindered. The ripple effect of corruption is far-reaching and devastating, touching every aspect of society. Justice may be slow, but it's not blind. A mantra that rings true when the corrupt fall from their ill-gotten pedestals. History is littered with such stories, tales of those who believed they could game the system, only to be caught in the very traps they set. Let's take a step back and look at some of these cases. There was a state representative, once revered, who found himself on the wrong side of the law. His crime? Accepting bribes to smear the reputation of a former president. His fate? A long-term prison sentence. He wielded his power with impunity, believing himself untouchable, only to realize that the law doesn't discriminate. Then there was the political party, a fortress of corruption, that used its influence to destroy the former president and his family. They were eventually found guilty of treason, a crime that carries a heavy penalty. The evidence against them was damning, pointing to massive corruption that had been hidden in plain sight. But how was the evidence uncovered? It was a combination of relentless investigative journalism, whistleblowers with the courage to speak up, and meticulous legal work. These elements came together to expose the rot within the establishment, a rot that had been eating away at the country's founding principles. The severity of the penalties faced by these corrupt individuals serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of their actions. They were stripped of their titles, their wealth confiscated, their reputations tarnished forever. They had to trade in their luxurious lives for prison cells, a fitting end for those who had exploited their positions for personal gain. These cases serve as a stern warning to those who may be tempted to tread the path of corruption. They remind us that no one is above the law, that justice may be slow, but it is thorough, and that it eventually catches up with those who believe they can escape its reach. Corruption may seem lucrative, but its consequences are severe and lasting. It's a lesson that many have learned the hard way, and one that we must never forget. Corruption may be a grim reality, but it's not an insurmountable one. Indeed, it's a formidable foe that has seeped into the very fabric of our society, but it's not invincible. The first step towards conquering any enemy is to understand it, and we've done just that. We've pulled back the curtain to reveal the ugly face of corruption, and now we must speak of solutions. So how do we curb political corruption? It may seem like a Herculean task, but the answer lies in stricter laws, greater transparency, and the active participation of the public. Think of it as a three-pronged approach. When we say stricter laws, we're talking about introducing stringent regulations that not only punish corruption but also deter it. Laws that leave no room for loopholes. Laws that ensure that no one, regardless of their standing or political affiliation, is above justice. Moving on to the second prong, transparency. It's the antidote to corruption. By fostering an environment of openness and honesty, we can dissuade dishonesty. Transparency in campaign financing, transparency in the decision-making process, transparency in the execution of public projects. When everything is out in the open, there's less room for shady dealings. And finally, we come to the most crucial prong, the public. Yes, you, me, all of us. We must hold our representatives accountable. We must question, we must demand answers. Remember, they are public servants, they work for us, and it is our duty to ensure they do their job right. The road to a corruption-free society is not easy. It's a path fraught with obstacles, but it's a path we must tread. It's not just about us, it's about the kind of world we want to leave for our children, for our grandchildren. It's about preserving the ideals and principles upon which our great nation was built. The fight against corruption is a collective responsibility. It's a battle we must wage, not just for ourselves but for future generations.